Hey friends, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a brand new video dedicated to Poppy Playtime Chapter 5. Today, we're talking about news, theories of this series. In this video, we will focus on what I like to call the missing characters. Characters that technically exist within the Poppy Playtime universe. We have seen them many times in the form of toys, statues, posters, or merchandise, but that we have never actually encountered in the game, neither as enemies nor as animated creatures. I'm talking about some characters like Catbee, Candy Cat, Bron, and many others. All official characters, all recognizable, and yet completely absent from the gameplay. What happened to them? Why have we never encountered them in the previous chapters? Or is Mob Entertainment hiding something much bigger? During this video, we will analyze this exact topic, trying to understand their role in the lore, what might have happened to them inside the Playtime Co. factory. I will also show you an official message, a real response coming directly from a member of the Mob Entertainment team. So we're not talking about random theories, but about official information that could completely change the way we see these characters and their fate. Before we dive into the topic, I ask you as always to support the video. If you enjoy content about Poppy Playtime, theories, analysis, and news, leave a like, because it helps the channel a lot. And subscribe if you're not already, also activating the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos, because when it comes to Poppy Playtime Chapter 5, there is still so much to talk about. With that said, let's start with the video. First of all, I want to start right away with a fundamental element, because before making theories, it's only right to clarify what we know officially. The message I'm talking about comes from Ben Rooker, one of the members of the Mob Entertainment team, so we're talking about a direct source, straight from the development side of the game. In this message, Ben Rooker responded to one of the questions that has been circulating in the community for years. What happened to these characters, and why have we never encountered them in the game? The answer is very interesting, because it helps us understand what really happens behind the scenes during the development of Poppy Playtime. In the message, it is explained that in the previous chapters they actually tried to implement them, so characters like Bron, just to give a concrete example, were never forgotten or ignored. The problem is that every time they tried to insert them into the game, they literally ended up on the cutting room floor. In short, they could never find a convincing way to introduce them into the story, a way that was coherent both with the narrative and with the gameplay. Every attempt felt forced, unnatural, or simply didn't work within the context of the chapter they were developing. And I have to say that personally, I completely understand this situation. If we think about it, the world of Poppy Playtime is huge. There are so many characters, mascots, experiments, and toys, each with their own identity, their own design, and potentially their own story. Managing to insert all of them in a believable way is not easy at all. Every character can't just be thrown in randomly. They need a role, a reason to exist, an impact on the story, or on the player's experience. Otherwise, they risk becoming a confusing or useless presence. Additionally, there's another very important factor to consider. With every chapter, new characters are always introduced. This means that narrative space becomes smaller and smaller, and managing the already existing ones becomes more and more complicated. So yes, some characters were left out, not because they weren't interesting, but because there was no way to make them work properly within the game. That said, however, there is one very important thing to point out. Even though we've never encountered them as animated characters or enemies, some of them were still implemented in an alternative way. And this is a really interesting part, because it shows that Mob Entertainment did not completely erase them from the Poppy Playtime universe. In the next parts of the video, I'll show you exactly how these characters were indirectly included. Let's start first with Bron, because he is probably one of the most interesting cases among the missing characters. Even though Bron never appeared directly in the game, Mob Entertainment still managed, in some way, to officially introduce him into the lore. This is a fundamental detail, because it confirms that Bron is not just a decorative mascot, but a character that had a concrete role in the events of Playtime. A few years ago, in fact, Mob Entertainment released a VHS-style video that talked explicitly about Bron's experiment. This tells us one very clear thing. The living mascot version of Bron did exist. So Bron was not just a toy or an idea on paper, but was actually turned into one of the factory's experiments. However, this is where a big question mark arises. If Bron existed as a living creature, why do we never encounter him in the game? The most likely answer is also the simplest. Bron may not have survived. A very interesting possible clue can be found in an official Christmas artwork published by Mob Entertainment. In this image we can see Yarnaby destroying a Bron plush. Now, we know that Mob Entertainment often uses these artworks as symbolic content, not always 100% canon, but almost never random. The fact that it is specifically Yarnaby destroying Bron's plush might not be just a decorative scene. It could be a visual hint of what actually happened to the living mascot of Bron inside the factory. This leads us to a first hypothesis. Yarnaby may have eliminated Bron. But wait, because this is not the only possibility. There is also an alternative theory, perhaps even more disturbing. It is not excluded at all that the prototype may have taken Bron in order to make him become part of itself. We know that the prototype collects, assimilates, and uses parts of other creatures, turning them into extensions of its own body. If this were the case, then Bron would not truly be gone, but would still exist in a completely different form, absorbed into something much bigger and far more dangerous. And this is exactly what makes Bron's story so unsettling. We know he existed, we know he was transformed, but we do not know what his final fate was. And as we will see later in the video, Bron may not be the only character to have met this kind of ambiguous end. Now let's talk about Boogie Bot, because this character probably represents the best example of how Mob Entertainment decided to introduce some mascots in an alternative way. Boogie Bot is a character we have known since Chapter 1. We have seen his toy version, his posters, and environmental references scattered around the factory, so he has always been visually present in the Poppy Playtime universe. And yet for a long time, we never encountered him as a living and animated creature. Only in Chapter 4 did Mob Entertainment finally decide to take things a step further. In that chapter, we actually saw two living variants of Boogie Bot, namely the Scout and Medic versions. So technically, Boogie Bot became an animated experiment, even if in a slightly different form compared to what many fans were expecting. Unfortunately, there is an important thing to point out here. In this case, we are talking about secondary characters. They are not main antagonists, they do not have a central role in the story, and they are not explored in depth. They are present, yes, but they remain in the background, acting more as supporting elements within the chapter. Unfortunately, the situation is very different when it comes to other historical characters like Cat Bee and Candy Cat. For them, at the moment, we have no official information, and we do not know if they will appear in any way in Chapter 5, not even as secondary characters. And this is where the real narrative problem arises. In Chapter 5, we already know that new characters will be introduced. Characters that will obviously receive a lot of attention, both in terms of gameplay and story. This makes it even harder to find a believable space for these old characters who, up until now, have never truly appeared. Adding them now would require time, explanations, and a solid narrative context. And with so many new elements coming, the risk is that there simply won't be enough space for everyone. Thank you so much for watching the video until the end. You are amazing. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.